and a higher level of urgency. Now, we've heard from the captain, Austin Matthews, talking about how this group lacks urgency. Well, it's a bad time of year for that, because you can't really work through your growing pains with the playoffs looming. So there shouldn't be a sense of panic given the level of talent that the Toronto Maple Leafs have, the improvements that were recently brought in by Brad Treliving, but flat out they've got to play with a heightened sense of urgency, more passion, and
Why do the Leafs always falter when it matters most? With just 16 games left, they've lost 5 of their last 6. Can they turn it around in time for the playoffs, or is this another season of disappointment? Alright, Leaf Nation, it's time for a reality check. The Toronto Maple Leafs are at a critical point in the season, and things haven't been looking pretty lately. With only 16 games left in the regular season, the pressure is on. The Leafs have lost 5 of their last 6 games, and it feels like the team has hit a wall. But let's be real, they've got the talent, and with the playoffs just around the corner, now's the time for them to snap out of it. Here's the big question. Can the Leafs turn it around in time to avoid another early exit from the playoffs? Or is this just setting up for another disappointing end to a season full of promise? If you've been watching the Leafs play recently, you can't help but notice the lack of urgency and passion in their game. They've been inconsistent, especially when it matters most. And it's not just one player or one line. The issue runs deeper. From top to bottom, the Leafs have looked sluggish, almost like they're waiting for something to spark. This is the final stretch of the regular season, and yet the effort hasn't always matched the stakes. Coach Craig Bown is not happy about it, and frankly, neither are the fans. He's been clear. The team needs to be held accountable. No more excuses. Bown has already addressed the team, telling them that they need to step up and bring more energy if they want to make a real run at the Cup. He knows the talent is there. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, all these guys can do it. But it's about more than just showing up and skating around. It's about putting everything together and playing like they mean it. Austin Matthews, the Leafs captain, has been vocal about the team's issues. He's straight up said it. The Leafs need to have more urgency, especially now. When your captain is speaking out, you know something's wrong. The lack of urgency this late in the season is concerning, especially with playoffs on the horizon. It's not the time for growing pains or figuring things out. This is crunch time, and the Leafs have to fix things now. But here's the thing, this lack of urgency isn't just a recent development. It's been something that's haunted the Leafs for years now. They have the talent, but when it comes to crunch time, they haven't been able to get it done. But it's not about to fix itself. It's up to the players to take responsibility and show that they can play with the intensity needed for the playoffs. Let's talk about the coaching change. After last season's letdown, the Leafs made a decision to bring in Craig Bown as their new head coach. Bown's philosophy has been all about instilling a more direct north-south style of play. The Leafs were known for their skill, but it wasn't enough to get past the first round of the playoffs year after year. So Bown's plan was to create a more aggressive, playoff-ready identity. He didn't want to take the skill out of the game, and he just wanted the players to compete harder and play smarter. Now, we've seen glimpses of that style working during the regular season. The Leafs have had some really good games, especially when they've played with that edge. But lately, it's been hard to ignore the lack of consistency. It's like the Leafs are trying to find their rhythm, but they can't seem to get on the same page. Bown has stepped in, called out the players, and demanded more. It's on him to figure out how to get the team back on track, but at the end of the day, the players are the ones who have to rise to the occasion. Here's the kicker. The trade deadline is behind them, and there won't be any new players coming in to save the day. This means what you see is what you get. The Leafs are stuck with the roster they have, so the adjustments they need to make have to come from within. The time for tinkering with lineups and trading for big names is gone. Now it's all about the players stepping up, playing with urgency, and fixing the issues themselves. Sure, the Leafs made some improvements with the additions of players like Ryan O'Reilly earlier in the season, but those changes won't matter if the core group doesn't perform when it counts. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and the rest of the stars need to lead by example and show that they're ready to carry the load. The talent is there, but the question remains. Can they deliver when the pressure is on? So, here's what's next. The Leafs have a huge game coming up against the Colorado Avalanche. This is the game where the Leafs need to prove something to themselves, to their fans, and to the rest of the NHL. Colorado is one of the best teams in the league, with guys like Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar leading the charge. They've been on fire recently, and after a 7-4 loss to the Avs earlier in the season, the Leafs have a chance to redeem themselves. This isn't just another regular season game, it's a chance for the Leafs to get a signature win. If they can beat a top-tier team like Colorado, it will show that they're capable of competing with the best of the best. It will give them the confidence they need going into the playoffs. But if they fall short again, well, it's going to raise even more questions about their ability to step up in big moments. As the playoffs approach, the Leafs find themselves in a familiar situation, needing to prove they can win when it counts. But the pressure isn't just on the coaching staff, it's on the players themselves. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, these guys are the ones who will determine the Leafs' fate. They need to show that they can turn it around, bring the urgency, and play with the kind of intensity that we know they're capable of. So what's next? The Leafs have 16 games left in the regular season to figure things out. They don't have a lot of time to make adjustments, but if they want to make a real run at the Cup, they need to start showing that they can play with urgency and consistency. The road to the playoffs is always tough, but it's especially tough when the team can't get out of their own way. With the trade deadline over, no new faces are coming to save the day. The Leafs are going to have to fix things themselves. The key will be whether they can find their rhythm and play with the urgency needed to go deep into the playoffs. The next few games will tell us a lot about this team's mentality and whether they're ready to face the pressure of postseason hockey.